firstly, there was a view, of course, that was expressed about the IEC and opening, of course, of the voter registration process. But even before we get to that, when it became apparent that COVID-19 would still be very much with us, there was a view that Parliament perhaps would have been the correct place for the IEC to actually approach to have elections postponed and not the Concord. So please explain to us at this point, because it's the only time that I've had opportunity to speak to you since all of this has started, why the IEC decided on the Constitutional Court approach as opposed to Parliament.
I think there are a number of reasons. The first reason is that we met with the parties in the Party Liaison Committee on the President made an announcement on the 21st of April that an election was going to be held on the 27th. It wasn't a proclamation, it was just an announcement. On the 22nd of April, we met with the Party Liaison Committee. It's a structure where parties represented in the National Assembly are present. There are also a few parties that are not represented who have applied and have been accredited to be on that structure. At that meeting, parties indicated that they do not all of them, I must say, that they are not of the view that these elections held to be held on the 27th would be free and fair. Persuasion to that effect did not work. As a result, we then commissioned a report by former Deputy Chief Justice Moseneke. Within a month of that happening, he released his report in July, and we then looked at the options and decided to go to court because we are not seeking an amendment to the Constitution. We are not seeking an amendment to extend the term under normal circumstances. We are saying this circumstance, which is a one-off, was the one we were looking at. That's why we did not go to Parliament. Going to Parliament would have meant that the Constitution is amended to extend a term at will. That's not what we were seeking.
So, Mr. Moepya, looking at where we are now, Constitutional Court, of course, delivered its judgment on Friday, and the matter of the reopening of the candidate nomination list generally seems to be the keenest point of interest right now. And even yesterday during that briefing, that is what dominated the question and answer session during your briefing. Now, is the Commission confident about this decision to actually open the process for the candidate registration once more, given that you have parties like the DA, like the EFF, who have threatened legal action to oppose this decision?
I think I must indicate without any doubt that we have applied ourselves as the Commission, and we are confident of the decision we have taken. It would not be the first time that there are not, or there is not, a common position on an issue in relation to political parties. The last 2 weeks we were quiet. We dealt with a matter. There were others that were saying to us, do this, do that, and do the other thing, and we held because we believed what we were doing was correct. There are 14 parties in the National Assembly. 11 of those parties accept, in fact, agree with the decision we have taken. We accept that this is not a numbers game. 3 of them have indicated that they do not agree, and they may, if they feel aggrieved, they may seek opportunities to address their concerns. That we must welcome in a democracy. When we don't agree, we seek clarity, and we do so, always, and we move forward in that manner.
So, Mr. Moepya, if I can quote the IFP spokesperson, Mkhuleko Hlengwa, he says that the reopening of the candidate registration process clearly shows that the IEC are operating with political bias. The interpretation of the judgment by the IEC is not legal, but political. So just in terms of that interpretation of the Constitutional Court judgment, which part of that judgment actually allows for the IEC to reopen the candidate nominations process?
The Constitutional Court is clear in paragraph 5 that, in our view, that we must consider whether it's practical to have a registration weekend. And if it is, in 5C3, it says if it is, we must seek that opportunity and look at amending the timetable to the extent that it may be reasonably necessary. It says if we are not able to open 23,151, as we understand it, 23,151 voting stations, we must accept registrations at our municipal offices. Municipal offices are in some 257 places or so. We accept that in order to enhance the freeness and the fairness of an election, it is preferable to have a registration weekend where we are closest to the voter. And that's what we are going to do. The consequence of that is that anyone who then registers in terms of the Constitution, as we understand it, Section 19(3)(b) of the Constitution, anyone who is registered as a voter and wishes to stand for political office, elected office, must be able to do so, as we understand. We do not understand why we could open for people to register, but deny them a right to stand for political office if they so wish and they were to be elected. That's one of the key things. It's a consequential thing. The second thing is, it is so that registration precedes candidate nomination. The Constitutional Court has set aside the proclamation that was issued by the minister. A new proclamation is going to come, and the consequence of that proclamation is that as we speak at the moment, voters may come, new parties, as we understand, that were not perhaps even registered when the proclamation first came out, but are now registered. They would be free to contest that election if they so desire. In those circumstances, we do not understand the order to say, apply it selectively, enroll so-and-so and not so-and-so. And if we do err, that will be a matter that is clarified. We simply understand the court to be saying, do everything in your power to ensure that a free and fair election, even in difficult circumstances, can be held.
So I would imagine that you are preparing yourself now for a court battle as the IEC, because by your own admission, it is clear that there are different interpretations to the Constitutional Court ruling, Mr. Moepya. And, some other people like Terry Tselane, former IEC Commissioner, he, speaking to him yesterday, also weighed in on this and basically saying that that Constitutional Court order only allowed for the reopening of the registration process for voters and not necessarily for the registration of candidates. So is there a provision somewhere in the IEC's documents that says that if you open for registration for the voters, then you should also, as an extension, open for registration for candidates?
Well, I must be clear that we don't share that interpretation. I just want to read you Section 19, subsection 3B. it deals with political rights in the Constitution. It says every adult citizen has the right to stand for public office and, if elected, to hold office. If we were to open registration weekend and have people who wish to stand for office, why would the order that we have specifically preclude that person from exercising this constitutional right in the same constitution? This is the issue we are contending with.
So just in terms of contingency plans, hypothetically speaking, if those who are in opposition to your interpretation, that being the DA, the IFP and the EFF, if they were to be victorious, where would that leave the IEC?
Well, our systems work exceptionally well. We will know. We know persons that were registered by the 3rd of August and anyone that registered subsequently. We know candidates that were nominated by closing date of candidate nomination, and we should be able to deal with these things. And for that reason, our duty is to act without fear, without favor, and without prejudice. And to that extent, we will not prejudice anyone, we will not favor anyone, and we will not fear. When we hear that someone holds a view differently to what we believe, there's a court action. It's not fear we will act on, it's whether we are acting correctly. And if the answer is yes, we are acting correctly, then we deal with that matter accordingly.
Was there a systems glitch on the initial date for the closing of those candidate lists? Because as the ANC contended, they struggled with that system. Did the the IEC encounter any such difficulty? Did you pick up on any glitches in your system?
Not anything significant that in our view, would have denied anyone to work on the system. And we must say this is not something we're doing for the first time. It is something that is tried and tested. Yes, we accept that with any internet access, where you are, your access to the system and things like that may have, what quality of network you use, and a whole range of other things may determine how you sometimes get quick access or you struggle with access and so on and so forth. But generally, we looked at the logs on our systems. They are not, we are happy with them. We don't have an issue that is fundamental that would be a problem for us to deal with.
And Mr. Moepya, only about a month left. Is the IEC sufficiently prepared as we speak right now for these elections? It's a short time for a condensed timetable. Are you ready?
Sakina, we've held the view that even as we approached the Constitutional Court, we accepted that we approach that court, but we work on the date of the 27th. We've always said we believe that this is not, our issue is not a technical issue. It's an issue of understanding and interpreting our responsibilities in terms of the Constitution well. So we proceeded to prepare for the elections. What this has done is that, of course, there are now new things we need to do in the period that we have. And those things we will do as best we can. Technically, we will be ready to deliver the elections as we have always held.
And just with regard to voter registration weekend, 18th and 19th of September, so perhaps an opportunity to speak to the electorate watching here right now, Mr. Moepya, what is to be expected?
We wish to appeal to everyone who has turned 18 or is 18 and above to make time on the 18th and the 19th of September between 8 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon to visit our voting stations. We want to assure them that in our voting stations, we will have taken measures to limit the spread of the pandemic. We will not be having our voting or registration stations as points of contagion for this pandemic. And in that respect, we wish to appeal to them to ensure that their registration details are indeed correct on the voters' roll. They can do so on the website, on the Electoral Commission. They can send an SMS onto us. There are many ways they can go check at our municipal offices. They can check even at our national office. Those facilities remain open. We ask that especially those that are going to be newly registered voters to grab that opportunity to participate in the governance of their nation. Elections give us that opportunity once every 5 years, and this is the opportunity to renew the mandate of the persons they send to administer their affairs in their municipalities closest to where they live. Local government is a very, very important sphere of government. It is the one closest to people. It is the one whose services are much felt on a daily basis. And we will do everything in our power to ensure that their experience on the day is nothing but a good experience. We look forward to meeting with them. We have new equipment that we will be using for the first time in this country after we have rested or retired our famous Zip. And we do look forward to a number of efficiencies that we can gain from that process. And we look forward to everyone that will be visiting us to have a good experience with us on that day.
Right, so that was just a repeat of that interview. If you did miss it in the first hour here on the program, important information that was passed there. We've got to say goodbye. We will see you tomorrow.
Take care.